it can be done. And in fact, this is the basis of the martial arts, which are a tremendous athletic activity, but also a spiritual activity. And it was originally the Shaolin monks in China, the Buddhists and the Taoist monks, who developed these physical capacities to extraordinary extents. And yogis have traditionally developed the siddhis of almost and sometimes actually supernatural powers of the body, but not in order to win, not for ego, but for being healers and shamans and transformers of the world. So if it is done for the joy of knowing what you are capable of and of surrendering to that infinite mystery that is both body and mind, the mystery of God is in the organism as well as in the consciousness. And the organism has its own consciousness. And to recognize that we do not know what our bodies are capable of, and to take delight in the discovery of their potentiality, in silent recognition that we are encountering a sacred force that is moving us and moving through us and developing its own powers, its own strength, its own capacities that transcend the ego mind's own ambitions for what you can do as an ego to defeat others in a game or whatever. It has a majesty and a glory of its own that transcends any of that. And so to be in the silent presence of the joy of the power of the organism, to run, to do acrobatics, to do all kinds of graceful movements of dance, of asanas, of whatever it is that one is doing, they become an embodiment of grace itself in action. And to have that artistic sacredness to the development of the body's capacities turns it into a very religious and spiritual act, and becomes part of one's sadhana, one's development of and refinement of one's spiritual sensitivity. And then the body itself becomes an instrument for the expression of the sublime feelings of the soul. And it will naturally want to express itself in the most beautiful ways. And so the beauty that the body can express wants to fulfill itself. And so you must surrender to that drive to allow the body to reach the fullness of its powers. And if you do that in the state of surrender, it's the same surrender as in meditation, and your bodily activity becomes a meditation.
It's very fulfilling to be able to listen to that. It's a very thin line, I think, between that amazing egoless fulfilling and just turning into ego, because we are ego, right? I mean,
no, we are not ego.
No, we are not. But
but that's why before beginning a physical exercise activity, martial artists meditate first and sit in silence and root themselves in the silence, and then begin with a bow to God or to the Buddha or to the Tao, and offer their exercise itself as a sacred act, as a prayer, as a surrender to God. And if you start every exercise encounter and session with that kind of a sacred intention, it will remain with you, and your mind will be silent and focused on the most minute bodily changes. And you will become much more sensitive and aware. And what you'll notice is that as you silence the mind while you're doing the activity, time slows down. And this is one reason martial artists especially meditate, and they get into a totally silent state before engaging in sparring with an opponent. Because what happens then is the opponent's movements get perceived as if they are happening in slow motion. And you are able to respond in ways that you would not respond accurately and in a timely way if you were not in a meditative state. And you would be surprised. But when you're in a meditative state, because your presentness overflows the moment and includes past and future, you will know in advance the next move that your opponent is going to make, whether it's a punch or a kick or a block or whatever, and you will be able to outflank that maneuver and be able to turn their energies against their own aggression and leave them on the floor in awe of the power of God that has moved through you. And so if you do it with that sacredness, you'll find your effectiveness in whatever kind of athletics it is will grow immensely. I speak as someone who has practiced martial arts for many years, and I know this to be true.